Hi, we're in the next part. Please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings. I'm busy talking about how it is that I feel obsolete. I feel like something that is a product on the shelf that is already expired. And it's really getting the best of me. And I made an observation about 2 days ago that my heart is also starting to get rotten against young women. I made that observation, and I am seeking the Lord's face to basically stay that process from continuing, to stop it. And the way to stop it, I would imagine, would be to give me what I want. Give me what I ask for in prayer. I've been begging for years for love, for crying out loud. Fellowship. I've been asking to get out of this. So they treat me like trash. They treat me like rubbish because they think no one's coming for me. They thoroughly think they can just yell at me, speak to me like anyhow. I'm nothing. They speak to me like I am, I'm unintelligent. Like I'm not smart. Like I'm finished. Like the fact that my mother looks at me like I'm something. I can't stand that. Like just the fact that she thinks I'll never marry. Just the fact that she thinks I'll never get my home. That I will never one day ever again in this world ever be a whole thriving contributor to the economy. I just look at this woman and I'm like, yo, you need to understand that I'm leaving. I'm leaving this place. Like I'm not going to be here. I very likely might not even be around on the day you die. That's what you need to understand. Stop planning a life around me being destitute in this position. And just the fact that my family members can think of me as somebody that's not going anywhere, it makes me even more hot. It steams me up even more. I was a whole thriving young professional that was exceptionally successful. I used to do really well. I used to earn really high a salary. I was going to become a millionaire. It was inevitable. I was going to be violently prosperous in terms of my career. And one day that ended. And the fact that my family members could have observed me at the height of my career and think I will never make money again. That stuff, you don't understand, guys. Anger is another word. It's something, I feel like it's an understatement. It's an understatement. I just look at them walk around me like I'm never gonna make money again. And I'm like, how you don't know me. How in the world you gonna live with somebody so freaking intelligent and think she will never, ever, ever, ever buy another car again? The fact that my car is driving around in these streets got biscuit tire that could any moment now just roll off my vehicle. How in the world you gonna think that the day's never gonna arrive when I'm out here pulling up with a 4x4? How in the world are you gonna imagine the day's never gonna come when I literally walk into Tiger Wheel and Tire and ask them to change my car, do a wheel alignment, and over and above it, see if at all they can't just replace all my tires? Everything. How in the world do you think that the day's never gonna arrive when I basically fix that dent in my car on the side? How are you gonna think that the day's never gonna arrive when maybe I might even put the car in the market, put it up in the market to sell it because I'm getting a new car? Or how in the world do you imagine that the day's not gonna arrive when I will hold on to my Mazda 2 and after 18 years give it to my firstborn son? How do you not see that being a thing? How do you not see me teaching my kid how to drive at the age of 15 in that Mazda 2? How do you not see me as a woman that's ever going to proper have a stomach that is big one day because I've got a baby in it? How are you gonna sit around being a family member of somebody and never ever expect them to use the eggs God gave them to have some children? Never ever expect a man to love them. Never ever expect them to earn a salary and have a job and have children come to the office and play around and, break a frame in the office and get told, little Johnny, please no, get out. This is mommy's working space. How under heaven do you think the day's never gonna come when I don't have children literally visiting me for the day in an office building where it is that some colleagues are like, oh, these your kids. Oh, how old are they? Hello, this, hello, that. Your kids are cute. Anyway, ma'am, is there anything I can do for you? I did the report. How in the world anybody can imagine that I don't get to do that? It's freaking ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm watching the show right now on Netflix. It's called Fool Me Once. It's called Fool Me Once. I just get broken. My heart gets broken by literally everything, guys. Things that people go through in life. I look at them like, but why am I not experiencing this? There are these 2 kids there. Their mom has passed away. Their mom was murdered, okay? And these kids are doing some kind of investigation on their mother's life. They found an old school film, tape camera. The mother was a millennial. These kids look like they could be Gen Zs, okay? Yeah, that's what's good. And these children, like I said, a brother-sister pair that are investigating not so much the murder of their mother, but just the last couple of years of their mother's life. They came across one of those old school films where you have to develop dinepe. You have to develop dinepe, and you have to develop photos at a little bit of a photo development store, and you only have like 20 in a roll of film type thing to shoot. Yeah, they found that and they took it to a store where they have to develop basically these photos. They get the photos, and in the photos they find a pic of some man that was their mom's like first love or whatever, right? And this woman was pregnant at some point And this pregnancy was not the oldest daughter. She knows that for a fact because of the date that was on that photo when she was pregnant. So they're like, but we could have a brother out there, we could have a sister, and we don't know. Where is this child that mom was carrying in this photo? So they go around looking for the baby daddy, essentially for the man that the mom was with in those photos. So the man that the mom was with before their father. And they go looking for him, and they find him using facial recognition software and artificial intelligence, etc. And on LinkedIn, they find the company that he works for, and then they go into that company. Yes, you guys, it reminded me of Liberty Life. The inside of that company, Liberty Life, there is this long-term insurance company called Liberty Life in South Africa. And Liberty Life is the company where my mother used to work when I was growing up. It is the company where my uncle, I don't know if he's still working or if he's retired or what, but if at all he hasn't retired, he's still working there. Yeah, the family, our family has been through the aisles of Liberty Life quite a lot. And I also at some point was working for Liberty Life. I was in a leadership program for Liberty Life. Yeah. So the main building, which is in Braamfontein, the head office at Liberty Life in Braamfontein, I've seen the inside of it a lot of times. Because, and again, my ex-boyfriend Lenana sebetsa go Liberty Life, so I have seen the lobby of Liberty Life as they were building it throughout the years, the changes, the transformations on the inside. And the most recent refurbishment of it, I guess I saw it when my uncle was working there and my ex-boyfriend was working there, and I had been on the inside. I'd been to the canteen, the coffee shop, etc. Yeah, that whole, office building scene. Yeah, that place looked like the office, yeah, Liberty Life. Okay, now the whole canteen, the whole coffee shop where it is that the staff members sit down and they have lunch at downstairs, like on the main floor, the lobby, where it is that basically people go to the reception and ask, I want to go and see this person upstairs. However, at the beginning, there is this like artificial intelligence little bot that asks these children as they walk into this office building, who are you here to see? And these kids very quickly shuffle around and they say, we're here to see this particular guy. And then they're like, what's your capacity? And those kids said to this bot, we're his kids. We are here to see our dad. We're here to see our dad. And then the bot lets them in. It gives them like some kind of a tag that gives them access to the building. And they walk around looking for their dad, who wasn't really their dad, but it was this ex-boyfriend of the mom's that worked at this particular office building. And as they were going through this organization, I had so much nostalgia and my heart was breaking so badly because I remembered when I was about like 13, 14, 15 in high school, when I was even maybe like 11, 12, 13 in primary, etc. I remember every so often after school, instead of going home straight away, I went to where it is that my mom works, and I would go to the lobby and basically be like, I'm here for this particular person. And they were like, what's your capacity? I'm her daughter. And then they would call her, mother, your daughter's downstairs. And then my mom would be like, okay, I'm coming. And then when my mom was downstairs, she would then, with her access card, she would tell them to let me through. I would then be let through. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then I would walk around this very beautiful office building with this canteen, and we would eat the food from the canteen and whatnot, and then go upstairs to her office where she works, and then just sit there, roll around, twirling on chairs while her colleagues kept on coming. And I'm like sitting there in school uniform. Her colleagues kept on coming. Hi, how are you? What's your name? Oh, how old are you? Oh, she's so cute. Anyway, so have you done the report? What a fish paste. I remember that, and my heart broke. Oh, guys, like, yes, everything hurts. Like, I'm just so emotional. My heart broke. You know why? Because my mom had a season where her child was at her offices, twirling around in school uniform, in a chair, while she was awkwardly being told she was cute by older people, by colleagues. And I did not get to have that. I did not get to have some kids that are like 12, 13, 15, coming in with school uniform on some, who you here for? Karabo, let's say the surname was, I don't know, Vilagazi, because I would have been married to somebody else. Karabo Vilagazi. Karabo is like, okay, no, those are my kids, I'm coming downstairs. I then go downstairs and I fetch my 15 and my 13-year-old in the reception at work, and they go through the canteen area. I buy them a lunch, and then they go to my desk, and my colleagues are like, oh, how old are you? Ooh, I heard the other day that you were on the honors roll. You're a prefect. Your kids are so cute anyway. So yeah, like, why did I not get to do that? Why didn't I get to have some uniformed kids coming, looking all weird and awkward in the lobby of my company, while I go downstairs, fetch them, and have my colleagues say you're cute? For me, like, it's small things like those. Literally everything gets to me. Everything. Everything hurts. Everything hurts. It's like, you took that away from me when you got to do it. The tables were supposed to turn for me. I was the uniformed child, going into a big building thinking, one day I want to work in a beautiful company like this. And then I got to be a big person. And I then did not get the kids who then would also come there and be like, I want to work in the same type of company that my mom works in because it's pretty and they serve nice lunch in the cafeteria. It's better than the tuck shop at school. Everything hurts. I can't do basic things. Basic things. I cannot do them. My whole life has just been frozen. And I looked at God and I'm like, I feel obsolete. I can't, literally the prospects of a child coming to my offices and having my colleagues be like, oh, cute, how old is she? That'll never happen. The tables don't turn for me. I'm at that age where I'm supposed to be having like a 7-year-old or something. That should also be getting told you're cute in my office while that kid awkwardly just twirls around on my chair and sits there looking all odd towards colleagues that are out here squeezing her cheeks like proper. That is something that I'm not gonna get to do. Whether or not I am an entrepreneur running my own company or an employee of an organization where the kids come in and see this big fat canteen. Why is that not my life? Why under heaven do I not have that luxury? Why can I not have a basic life like everybody? Basic, like just small things like those. And I'm like, God, how in the world you gonna let me be born and merely exist until I die? These people have done that. Look at their Freddy Krueger outcome of witchcraft. It's literally that ominous. It's so freaky what they've done. That they've refused a person basic things that they take for granted. They take them for granted. They don't realize that that's just a life. It's a regular life cycle that they are going through, that they are denying Karabo. They have literally frozen me in the past. And I can't experience being a mother, given that I once upon a time had a mother, that I got to undergo experiences as a child, having a bigger person that works in a corporate. I cannot be now those tables that have turned to somebody else that's on the come up. I can't be that to some Gen Alpha children. Why is that my life? How are you going to just let this be my life? I'm a woman. I can't hustle like a man. You know that. We are always being exploited. You cannot just leave me in this position. It's ridiculous. And it's dastardly that my family members thoroughly think that I will never use my eggs, even though I still have some fertility left in me. It is dastardly that my family members think I will never make a single rand ever again in my life, that I will never earn a salary, that I will never know what it's like to buy my own clothes, my own shoes, my own underwear ever again, that I will never know what it's like to buy my own house again, to service my vehicle using my own money, to change out my tires now that one is flat. Like the fact that I am expected to never experience that ever again. In other words, the fact that I am being denied an adult life. I am being denied an adulthood. I cannot freaking believe it. I am in shock. It's a horror movie. 24 hours a day. I am being denied an adulthood. I am being denied the glory of pregnancy, of marriage, of having some children walking around that I'm going to be screaming at. I am being denied basic things that everybody got to do. You got to be all heavily pregnant and freaking tired, waddling around like a duck, and I am being denied that. I'm being denied the insecurity of stretch marks on my stomach and ankles that have been swollen because I'm like 7 months pregnant. I am being denied all that. All that. I would literally much rather take in my stride a deadbeat, boring, mundane life, but nonetheless it's a life, than whatever under heaven is going on right now. And the sad thing about it is I prayed. I sought the Lord's face. I fasted. I looked longingly into his eyes. I laid myself prostrate at his feet and I asked him to conquer on my behalf all that which generationally ties me to brokenheartedness in a marriage, that ties me to a deadbeat husband, that ties me to deadbeat adulteress, being an adulteress to a married man, that the stuff that basically all the women that I have made an observation growing up around settling for. I sought your face to give me a life above reproach that is better than that, and a marriage that's gonna last. A man that I'll be married from the time we get married up until one of us dies or the Lord takes us. I sought the Lord's face for all that. And it's written in his word that ask for anything in my name and it'll be given to you. And I gotta just sit around here taking in my stride. Basically being a 39-year-old spinster, facing being a married woman at 41 to, however, a devil-worshipping man because he managed to hold me hostage for 4 years ever since I met him. Because he managed to hold me hostage for 12 years ever since I met him. Because he managed to hold me hostage for 10 years, like proper. Guys that went and cast spells on me, preventing me from getting on ahead. It's like, Oditi, like you're the darkness. You are supposed to be driven out by me. You are not supposed to comprehend what I am. The light, the darkness, comprehends not the light. And yet I'm not driving out the darkness. It appears the darkness is teeming around me. Just floating around me, like dirt on a pond. They're just floating around me and I can't come up for air. And I don't even know when under heaven I'm ever going to be set free from these bonds, because it appears there is no future coming for a woman in my shoes. It's like I'm never going to be okay. Angizopumalana. I will never be okay. I am literally being threatened with never being able to be a mother. Imagine, say get about 50, still being treated like a child, still dependent on some pretty nefarious people, still needing to ask for every small little thing, unable to drive to the garage and buy myself a slab of chocolate. I can't do any such thing. I haven't eaten some of my favorite food in years because I can't afford to buy it. And I was prepared to write that out and wait for the Lord because I trusted that he was going to come through for me. But now it's like 10 years and it's become even worse. It's become excessive, my torments. More so entitled do people feel towards me, to me. They feel like the day's going to come and I finally capitulate. Do you understand what I'm saying? And in that feeling, they are intensifying their darkness and I'm like, I am the light, God. They are not supposed to be able to comprehend me because I belong to you. I'm supposed to drive them out. And I understand that we go through tests and trials as disciples. At what point am I going to get out of mine? Everybody gets out of trials at some point, whether be it martyrdom, be it death. I mentioned martyrdom, death, even if it's not a martyrdom death, or the rapture, or breakthrough. Something gotta give, but I can't just stay here. Look at my heart. I'm an activist for women. I'm always trying to take care of the cause of women. I'm always trying to advise young women to do better. I cannot continue with this protagonism, and I also cannot continue in this endeavor. I cannot continue being this kind of light and salt on the earth when I am embedded against the very audience I am gunning for. They are literally the audience I'm gunning for. They're my niche. I'm gunning for the youth, and I'm gunning for women in total, of all ages. I'm literally targeting women with my ministry, and I'm also targeting youth, even if they're men, so that they can avoid the mistakes of people like my ex-boyfriend. I'm trying to get them a hope. But if at all, I can't stand young women as they are gloriously going through their wonderful lives, I then lose a big chunk of my audience. I will struggle to be genuinely joyful for my fellow females, and I cannot be allowed to walk in that bitterness and still maintain my ministry. On that day, I will be the same hypocrite that I was speaking against the other day. That chick from my country that I used to know her back in the day, who was out here lamenting against TB Joshua, and yet in and of herself, she's a witch. Like, I don't want to be that thing. A woman that is embittered against other women and low-key is pulling rocks from underneath their feet, envious of them, jealous of them, unable to truly desire what is good for them. And so therefore, low-key a saboteur of everything they do. But on the surface, you've got a foundation. On the surface, you're an activist. On the surface, you are a protagonist for a cause. On the surface, you want what is best for women, but under wraps, you destroy them. I don't want to be that woman. I don't want to be that woman. Like, I don't want to be the kind of person that withholds praise from a woman because I'm jealous of her. And I also don't want to be the kind of person that withholds never mind praise but promotion. That tries to, as a young woman on the come up, I knew what it was like to serve under bosses that were literally trying to keep me back, hold me back, prevent me from growing because they were envious. I never want to withhold an opportunity to grow at the pace or rate that a woman wants to grow, that is under me, that I am mentoring, because of the fact that I can't stand that she's just 22. I literally don't ever want to be that woman, but I felt it creep up in me because of what's happening to me. I am in trouble. I am in danger. I am. And I've been asking God how long. And then I thought about the story of Sarah. That's what I ended last on in my previous part. Sarah was similar to me in her bitterness, or the impending bitterness. She was waiting and waiting and waiting for something to finally come. And she, just like me, felt obsolete. Just like me, at some point she imagined this thing is never going to happen, even though God promised it. And so she decided to go and grab a young woman around and give this young woman to her husband. Her name was Hagar. And after Hagar fell pregnant, Sarah, instead of basically being the matron, the madam that gave her husband another wife, she's the one that said, go into Hagar, because I'm never going to give you children. If you want an heir, you need to take Hagar. She told him to do that. And then she was mean to Hagar. She made Hagar's life a living nightmare. Do you understand? When Hagar was pregnant, she was so mean and so, vitriolic against Hagar that she literally, she mocked her, she teased her until Hagar ran away. She ran away, like, constructive dismissal. Heavily pregnant, Hagar went into the wilderness because Sarah was that horrible. Sarah was told by God, I'm going to give you this. She and Abraham, her husband, were practically guaranteed, do you understand, to be okay one day. All they needed to do was wait. They both were supposed to wait. Abraham was supposed to reject Sarah's proposal. to take Hagar, and Sarah was supposed to basically never even let that idea come into her mind. But the idea came, and because of a lack of faith in God, Abraham was like, fine, seeing as you're cool with me taking a Hagar and putting a baby in her stomach, I'll do it. And after Hagar fell pregnant, it is written in God's word that I guess Hagar was kind of floating and flaunting her big fat chunky baby bump in front of Sarah. And Sarah was like, Wandela, and so she made her life a living nightmare. She made her life a living nightmare, like a boss that causes you to quit your job. And so you look as if though you've quit, but it's called constructive dismissal in this country under the Labor Relations Act. When a person makes your life such a living nightmare that you end up quitting your job, you can take the case to the CCMA and actually win, and likely even find yourself back in that company again, insofar as you can prove it. So Sarah essentially constructively dismissed Hagar out of jealousy. She did not trust God, and she allowed her man to impregnate another woman. And when this woman was out here rocking a baby bump, she then teased her, mocked her, felt afflicted by her, until she drove her out of their camp. She ran into the wilderness, Hagar, that is. But it was Jesus himself, it was God, it was the Father, it was the Holy Spirit, it was the Godhead, by the angel of the Lord, that said to Hagar, you need to go back. Be confident, you need to go back. So because of the comfort of the angel in the wilderness, Hagar went back and gave birth to Ishmael. But that was not the end of Sarah's torment of Hagar. Once Ishmael was born, that was the case, whatever, the kid got to grow up. But then Sarah finally, Sarah of which if she had waited, there would never have been an Ishmael. All that Hagar would have been was her servant girl. That's all that Hagar would have been. Mind you, how did Hagar even end up in Sarah's possession? She was a servant girl, a slave essentially to Sarah. That was an Egyptian woman. When Sarah was in Egypt, because she was so beautiful at an advanced age, she was she was beautiful. It is known. The scriptures describe Sarah as a woman that was very, very seemly. She was extremely attractive. So men were all up in stumbling around her. And so because her husband expected that the Pharaoh is going to stumble over Sarah, and he did not want to lose benefits out of being in Egypt, he said that Sarah is just my sister, that's it. And so Pharaoh took Sarah and basically made her one of his little girls, his concubines. The Lord saw Sarah's pain and then plagued Pharaoh. And then once Pharaoh was plagued even by these dreams, the Lord basically warned Pharaoh that if you don't let her go, that's somebody else's wife. That is a woman that is of Sarah was a woman promised to be the mother of nations. So you don't get to just give that chick to Pharaoh. What in the world? You don't just get to give that chick to a pagan king. You don't get to do that. So the Lord had a bone to pick with Sarah being in the hands of the wrong man. That's exactly what it is that I try to do. I try to give myself to that guy in America, even though I could tell there was something very off about him. And God was like, I'm not about to give a woman that's going to give birth to royalty. I'm not about to give that woman to just some lay pagan walking these streets. So God plagued Pharaoh. It happened as well with Abimelech. But right now we're speaking about Hagar. Yeah. God plagued, what do you call this? Pharaoh, until Pharaoh was like, take your wife, since you lied to me, since you're plaguing my country, and take all of your sheep, your cattle, your whatnot, and your servants, and all the servants or the mistresses or the maidens of your wife. Take all that and leave. So Hagar was an Egyptian girl that was given to Sarah to basically work under Sarah. And so they left with her. So she was made to leave her home. Let's just put that out there. All right? An Egyptian woman. So if at all the Lord did not want an Egyptian man to put a baby in the stomach of his Hebrew woman that he has set apart to be the wife of all nations, the mother of all nations, how much more would then the Lord not be prepared to put his seed of the promise into the belly of an Egyptian woman? So basically what it is that Abraham and Sarah, these mistakes they kept on making all over the show, they were trying to bring the wrong heir the promise. First through Sarah in Egypt, and then later through Hagar in their camp, since they were separated. They then left and took Hagar out of their with. And then after some years had progressed, Sarah then made a decision to give her servant girl, Hagar, that was young and fertile, to Abraham. And so now they went on right ahead and created an heir out of some Egyptian girl. And God was like, that's not what I'm doing. It's not what I'm doing. So the Lord ultimately fulfilled what he wanted to fulfill, but the sins of his children were not met without consequences. They were not without consequences. Ultimately then, Sarah was given exactly what it is that Sarah was told she was going to get given. Isaac. Isaac popped up in Sarah's old years. As a 90-something-year-old woman, she fell pregnant with Isaac. And after giving birth to Isaac, Sarah then went on, seeing as she started out first feeling obsolete. And because of her sins of feeling obsolete, she made a woman give a baby to her husband. And then once she had the baby that God promised, she then decided that, no, you know what? I've never been obsolete. This is what's good. You're obsolete. Sarah made a decision to make a young woman obsolete because of the mistakes that she made. I'm trying to get to a point here. Essentially what I'm saying is that when you don't trust God because you presently feel obsolete, when you serve the author of time, but you currently feel like you're out of time, when you don't bank on the Lord because you feel as if though they have closed all the shops, you will then make a mistake that's going to make you the bane of some other people's existence. And you will then go on right ahead once God finally gives you what you wanted in prayer. You're going to be that nasty little girl that's teasing everyone because you finally got your baby. You are literally going to throw away the person that you used as your vessel of pregnancy. Sarah went on right ahead and wreaked havoc in the life of Ishmael and Hagar, because now she had the baby that she's always wanted, and then decided that, oh, guess what? Guess who's obsolete now? It's you, Hagar. You were not supposed to have the baby in the first place. But like Sarah, here's the deal. You told me to go and lay with your husband. You gave me over to your husband as a second wife. You did that. And your namby-pamby husband accepted it all. And now you want to throw me away? And that's exactly what Sarah did. She was the boss lady. She was the queen. And the queen prospered to make the king let go of his firstborn son. The queen prospered to make the king accept. That's what's good. Yeah. Losing a child. Abraham out here orphaned his own son, Isaac. Not Isaac, who is this Ishmael. And abandoned for death, basically. Hagar too. They nearly died, they didn't. The Lord took care of them in the wilderness. Said that I'm going to make out of your son a great nation. That was the only excellent thing about Ishmael. Let's just put that out there. The Lord made it clear that he had a promise and he got to live. But because of the indiscretion of Sarah and Abraham, we now have this random rubbish with Hamas breaking into the kibbutz in Israel. We now have this random rubbish with Hezbollah, with all these Iranian-backed proxies. We are now dealing with all of these Syrian indiscretions, these Yemenis randos out here, like massacring, being like little pirates at sea, ships at the Red Sea, blocking trade and industry for 12% of the world's goods. Yeah. We now got all that going down, because the whole religion of Islam spurned up from that boy called Ishmael. If Sarah had not done that, if Sarah had not decided that she's obsolete for now and allowed a baby to come into the belly of the non-promised woman, we would not be fighting for Abraham's inheritance. We would not be fighting for heirhood. Essentially, that's what I'm getting at. There would not be two boys born to two different moms that are both fighting for the throne, who both believe they belong to the one true God, when the one is obviously not of the one true God, because God never gave the promise to Ishmael. He gave it to Isaac. And so they believe in the God of their father Abraham. But they are not Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They are Abraham, Ishmael, and then whatever else comes after that. And so they created Islam out of the Abrahamic origin. And this Islam has caused all of this anti-Semitism across the world. It is now the most dominant religion, the biggest growing one in the world. Islam. That's what's good. Like this one Abrahamic religion that is not really truly of God has taken over Christianity and Judaism. For crying out loud. The wrong one. The one that's not acknowledged. Like in Jacob's trouble, God is gonna go back and grab the Jews, Jacob. Presently, in this dispensation, the Christians are being taken by God. So the descendants of Abraham came through Isaac of which down the line somewhere, line of the tribe of Judah gets born Jesus. Jesus then gives the gospel to the Gentiles. Do you understand? So the Jews and the Christians, the Messianic Jews and the Christians go to heaven. And the non-Messianic Jews will ultimately be collected back to see their Messiah in Jacob's trouble. Ain't no such plan for Ishmael. Ain't no such plan. Ain't nobody going back for Ishmael. That's what's good. But the primary core purpose of Ishmael is to wreak havoc in Jacob. Is to create Jacob's trouble. Ishmael only turns back around to see that Christianity and Jesus was the Messiah because the tribulation happened. And thanks to the tribulation happening, at the end of the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, everybody's going to realize that, oh my goodness, Jesus was actually Lord. So only then is Egypt going to turn their heart over to God. Only then is Syria going to turn their heart over to God. Only then is Persia or Iran going to turn over their hearts to God. So literally, God does Jacob's trouble. He gathers the Christians before the rapture. He gathers the Jews during the tribulation. And then at the end of the tribulation, he then gives the Muslims an option to join basically Isaac's horde. They are going to forcibly humble themselves or die. They're going to be told to repent or perish, take it or leave it. That's what's good. And a lot of them will take it. They will ultimately worship Jesus. They will. But they literally are the last ones to get fished because the promise was never theirs. However, they're given that power that they're given precisely because of what under heaven it is that Sarah and Abraham chose not to believe. They chose not to trust that they're not obsolete. They chose not to believe in the author of time. They chose to be angry, passive-aggressive, and decided to take matters into their own hands, and then created a religion that would make out of them basically these scorned people across the world. Everywhere they went, scattered, lambasted by kings that would come and go, ransacked by the whole planet until Jacob's trouble ends. Literally, the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ is the only thing that finally brought peace to Sarah's camp after she made that mistake with Ishmael. She started a war. She brought a sword to her own household by creating a firstborn child that would feel entitled to the throne precisely because he's firstborn. She created that. And so this firstborn will forever be trying to take the throne because, like I said, born first. But the promise was promised to the child, the only one that was supposed to be born. Isaac was the only one that was supposed to come on the scene. But then Sarah decided to go and manufacture, as through a factory, a whole Ishmael just walking around in these streets, being the firstborn child that feels entitled to an inheritance. So now we got Hamas burning babies in an oven, switching it on at the kibbutz. We've got that. They're an embittered people that have had what they imagine to be their throne taken away when they don't realize that the promise keeper and the promise maker is on high. That's what happens when you do not trust God. You create factions and wars that linger long into centuries, millennia, into entire decades. You literally start a powder keg of rubbish and make Zechariah 12 a prophecy that will ultimately come to pass. Jerusalem will become a very heavy stone for all peoples, and all who would heave it away will be surely cut into pieces. The only reason Jerusalem has become that cup of trembling is because of Sarah and Abraham's indiscretion in feeling obsolete and not believing the author of time, the God of time. Do you understand? Who they imagined they're out of time because he did not do things on time. When you don't trust God, you produce Ishmael, and Ishmael makes your little city a cup of staggering, makes your little city a cup of trembling. The Lord knows what he's going to give you. Do you understand? And it will come in due season. You have got to see that bitterness gets spurred in a person when they don't wait for God. And when they finally get it, they become, like I said, these menacing, queenly, pompous people that ultimately feel like, but I mean, all along I was waiting on God. It's just that I had a little bit of a glitch in the middle where I was a bit impatient. But here is what God promised me. So now you go. Ain't no human being like being told so, now you go. Nobody likes being told so, now you go. Hamba. And what's currently happening with all of these random, like mysteriously odd men all over the show is they went and grabbed for themselves like Hagar wives. And now that they see me, now that my ex-boyfriend sees what he's lost with me, he realizes it wasn't broken. He's trying to fix it. This little animal from America went and married 2 whole women. And now he wants to marry me. He thinks of me as like some kind of an Isaac provision. This is what I've always been looking for. I've always been looking for this in a wife. This is what all these years I've been searching for. Well, if you were searching for this all these years, what you were supposed to do was wait until you finally found it. Here it is that you finally met a woman that you imagined was the perfect fit for you. When you were what? At the time he was 41 and I was 37. Seeing as this guy was like 4 years older than me. You would have met that perfect fit at 41 when she was 37, but nah, you decided to go and get married at 19 and then again at like 27 or whatever. And then after divorcing and going in and out of prison, then you meet Sarah. And then you're like, oh, this must be at last the bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I've always wanted this in a woman. This is the kind of girl that I've always been into. What are you freaking talking about? If this was the kind of girl that you've always been into, you were supposed to wait. See, yes, that same girl waited, isn't it? I came to Christ when I was 26. I then discovered that there are things I wanted in a man that I cannot get, possibly given my generational curses, unless I seek them out from a God who can conquer the darkness that came from before me. So I waited. And it's been 12 whole years that I've been chilling out here in these streets feeling like, oh my goodness, time is running out. And in that whole time, I had 2 men that professed Christ. Do you understand? That came into my life that at the time of meeting me, last time they fornicated was like good 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. The first one, when I met him, I was 2 years in the faith and so 2 years celibate. And he had just fornicated about 2 weeks ago. The one that I met in the US, again, I was celibate 11 whole years. And he had just fornicated like 2 days ago. And then he's like, oh, this at last is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. No, I'm sorry. I can't possibly be. Because you did not wait for me. You don't wait for me. You are not celibate. You are not basically drilling your flesh, beating it into submission. And so now these men who feel entitled to me after having lived their lives and spread themselves thin and gone out there and become baby daddies and like entire divorcees, they now want to come knock on my door with a bunch of rotten flowers and say, but I will take care of you. What are you talking about? I have a God. And you know what God did to Pharaoh when he was out here holding on to Sarah? You know what God did to Abimelech when he was out here holding on to Sarah? A woman that was supposed to give birth to a child of the promise. Yeah, no, you don't get to take that woman's womb and do with it what you want. You don't get to just plant your silly little seed in there that is substandard and not supposed to fertilize her eggs. God will plague you. God will plague you. The Lord plagued Abimelech. He plagued Pharaoh. And just as he plagued Pharaoh and Abimelech, he will certainly plague any man that is trying to come into my life now. Any man that does not make sense. Any of these random divorcees that are not bespoke to me, any man that I did not seek the Lord's face for, the Lord will kick them away just as he kicked those guys away. But enough for me. My biggest thing is God. All this time, I've just been waiting and waiting, and my heart is growing faint. It's written in God's word that hope deferred makes the heart sick, and a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. Well, my heart is sick, and I have no longings fulfilled. And look at how I'm becoming dingy within. I'm starting to dislike young women getting their dreams come true. And the Lord was like, well, then on that day, Karabo, you're making yourself like Sarah, where Hagar is concerned. Your bitterness is going to be spurned by sin. Sin is what makes you bitter. Sarah would have not been bitter and therefore jealous and therefore mean and therefore utterly destructive towards the cause of Hagar if she did not decide to go and grab her servant lady that she likely was treating well at some point and then gave her to her husband. If Sarah did not give that young woman to her man, she would have likely lived at peace with her mistress, with her master lady, with her boss lady for the rest of her days. And also likely embraced the religion or the faith of Abraham. So essentially Hagar stood to gain salvation. She stood to gain redemption. She likely also stood to get married in Abraham's camp to some dude over there that would like her. And in and of herself therefore give birth to kids that would have been part of the camp of God's people. So basically Sarah messed with the eternal soul of Hagar and also made sure that she created enemies for her and Abraham and that camp for the rest of history until the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. When you don't trust God, you create enemies out of people. So I am scared right now that I'm becoming embittered against young women. But all that it would take for me to be recovered in that envy is for me to get a longing fulfilled. Given that there is no permanent damage done, because I have not gone on right ahead and given my husband to a younger woman. I'm waiting on the Lord. Think about Abraham. Abraham, you would think he's namby-pamby, except he's the father of all nations, so he's not namby-pamby. He is this guy who, I guess that's what the Bible says. The Bible says that men, listen to your wives, otherwise your praise should be hindered. Abraham was a perfect example, and Sarah called Abraham Lord. So that's the perfect example of a relationship where a woman respects a man and a man loves his wife. And you know that song, yeah, Percy Sledge, when a man loves a woman, nothing can keep him away. When a man really loves a woman, and when he loves her the way that Christ loves the church, he will abide by her petitions. He will honor what she wants. And unfortunately, the petitions of a woman that he loved were not holy, they were not savory, they were not wholesome. Sarah's petitions, a man that loved a woman, produced the Hagar story. Sarah told her man, go into Hagar, and he went into Hagar. Just like that. Abraham told Sarah, say you're my sister, and she said, I'm your sister. She respected him and ended up in being the concubine of Pharaoh and Abimelech. That was respect. However, the respect came to a man that was not 100% careful with her heart and her life. But she respected him anyway, to a point of allowing herself to be the concubine of some two random deadbeat kings at the expense of her heart, and God is the one that intervened. So when you just blindly respect a man, that's what happens. But also when you blindly love a woman as a man, that's what happens. Sarah is like, husband, go into Hagar. Okay. Later on, Sarah is like, husband, get rid of Hagar. And he's like, okay. Like, do you see the relationship of Sarah and Abraham though? It's like the perfect example of respect and love in a relationship. A man perfectly loved his wife and did everything she said. Listened to her so his prayers were not hindered. But some of the things that she asked of him were ridiculous. But because he loved her, he did them anyway. And similarly too, Sarah respected her husband. And so therefore, everything that he said do, she did it, even though some of them were unsavory, like the whole Abraham and Abimelech and Pharaoh thing. But when you are righteous in your respect of your husband, and when you are also righteous in your love of your wife, you will then not make decisions that go against God. Because it's God first, then us. So, a reverent or a pious Abraham should have rebuked his wife and said, but God promised I love you and I want to do what you want me to do, but I feel as if though this could, produce some pretty nasty consequences. He was supposed to stand for his ground. And Sarah was supposed to say, look, I respect you as my husband and I will do as you say. I will say I'm your sister. But don't you see how this is going to mess with our marriage? And what if one of these random dudes puts a baby in my stomach? And Abraham would have then been like, okay, let's see if we can't come up with a workaround. Let's see if we can't trust God to protect you here in Egypt instead of us take matters into our own hands. So Sarah would have been safe. There would have never been a Hagar situation. And then Abraham would have never have also put a baby in the wrong woman's stomach. That's what's good. Yeah. So a woman puts herself in a position to become bitter towards other women later on when she does not honor God first before her desires. It is written in God's word that desire when it is fully grown brings about sin, and desire when it is conceived, brings about sin, and sin when it is fully grown brings about death. That's what the scriptures say. Yeah. So therefore, it is our desires that cause us to cause one another to sin. Abraham's love for Sarah made him sin, and Sarah's respect for Abraham made her accept sin. And so all that stuff caused God to intervene personally. But if you look at Jesus, when you look at God, and despite what you're looking at, walking by faith and not by sight, you will even eradicate that which we do for each other because we don't trust God. You will look at God. And so as Sarah, you will not give your husband to Hagar. You will just wait. And as Abraham, you will not give your wife to Sarah, to Abimelech and Pharaoh. You will just wait. You will just trust that God's provision is pure and perfect. Every good and perfect gift is from above and from the Father of heavenly lights. We have got a moral responsibility as people to look at God first before our own agenda. The Lord will never leave nor forsake us. He will always pull through for us. He remains faithful when we are faithless, for he cannot deny himself. But our faithlessness produces consequences that are pretty darned excruciating for the rest of our lives. We bring about all that excruciating sorrow in our own lives. Sarah brought all that sorrow into her own life, into the life of Hagar. Abraham brought all that sorrow into his own wife's life and the life of Hagar. A man who loved his wife easily let go of his firstborn son, and his other wife, his concubine, she was a wife. I believe he did actually want to marry her. He threw away another wife, a second wife, whatever, abandoned her to the dogs with his firstborn child because he loved Sarah. Like, when a woman can tell a man commit genocide and he does it. That's exactly what Abraham was to Sarah. Like, properly a chargeable man that would just gladly do what the wife says, if at all he loves her. The same thing happened with David and and Abigail. David was stayed, quite the opposite of that. He was stayed from committing genocide because of his love for Abigail and because of the respect and honor of Abigail. He ultimately married her because Nabal passed away. If you could go read the story in that Bible to get the complete context, but he was stayed from committing genocide because of Abigail. So when a man loves a woman, he will do whatever he wants for her. But like, that woman has got to be responsible with that love. Look at what Samson did with Delilah. Like, proper. That's why the Bible says he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. A good woman is a crown of glory on the head of a man. A bad one is rottenness in his bones. Why? Because literally, if a man loves a woman, he can commit genocide on her behalf. He can literally go to war. She becomes Helen of Troy, the face that launches 1,000 ships. A man's love for a woman can make him either a monster or the best guy in town, depending on the woman. So if the woman asks rubbish out of the guy will do rubbish. And that's exactly what Abraham did. He did rubbish for Sarah. And Sarah did also, out of respect for Abraham, did rubbish for him. What's important is to look at God. What does God have to say? We have to love God first before each other. Because then that will spare us from committing rubbish acts against other people on behalf of our loved husbands or wives. A lack of patience and a lack of trust in God is the kind of stuff that produces bitter broads. Sarah became a bitter broad, a bitter older woman that messed up the life of a young woman because of a lack of trust in God. And Abraham was the man who loved his wife enough to go and abandon some people on her behalf. So it is the responsibility of each and every single one of us to look at God and not each other, because then that will guide our patience in waiting on him. For Isaac, we are given these examples and the ramifications that these examples produced. We are given them that we might in 2024, I guess, keep on waiting even though we feel obsolete, even though we feel bankrupted of a future, even though we are angry at the planet. It is not wise to give then, thanks to that anger, our husbands to younger women or to women who can produce babies for them for now. because there will one day come an Isaac moment in your life. The ideal is to have Isaac without ever there being an Ishmael. That's what's ideal, and we need to try and gun for that. We have to try and gun for that, otherwise there will be, like I said, a whole raid at the kibbutz years down the line where Ishmael's descendant is going to put a baby in an oven and switch it on. Because Sarah said, go on right ahead and throw away that woman with her baby. So now they're throwing away Israeli babies because Sarah did it first. Sarah done did it first. Like literally that is what is going on. So the story of Sarah and Hagar and Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac helps me wait. But while I am waiting, my heart is sick. I am rotting inside. I am inclining towards evil. I feel like it's too long a wait. I'm feeling destitute. I'm feeling desperate. I'm feeling sick and I'm feeling beleaguered on all sides by wicked men that insist on having me. I feel like Sarah in Egypt dealing with that Pharaoh, a man that's trying to come into me and know me, even though I have a husband that's been set apart for me. I don't know what's gonna happen, guys. I don't know if it's the rapture, a martyrdom, or my breakthrough. But bottom line is, I'm sick. My heart is sick. I'm lonely. I am scared and I feel obsolete. But this afternoon, as I was thinking about obsolescence and me feeling like I'm done for, and looking at and struggling to watch young women as they progress, like I'm literally scared now to click on new videos of these women on YouTube that I watch, lest I should see a wedding ring on there and feel some kind of way. I just want to be able to watch hair content without knowing that this woman got married. Like misery loves company, and the company of my person is another human being that's been waiting for 10 years, going nowhere, doing nothing for God who promised. And so you have you're awarded faithfulness when you believe him. You are awarded faithfulness when you believe that God will give you what you want. We live in a fast-paced society of microwave babies that want things and want them now. And when you don't do things by a certain age, not only do you feel obsolete, but the world calls you obsolete. The world says you're expired. It is detrimental to our hearts living in 2024. The moment you get to a certain age, everybody thinks you're nothing, you're worthless. You can't even look at yourself in the mirror without feeling like you've got 20,000 wrinkles. Whether or not you see them is irrelevant. You feel that I just keep looking at everything. My hands, my legs, my face, my hair. And I feel like, what's the point? Like nothing matters. Why am I even trying? Why do I even wear any lipstick? Why do I come here every day? I appear to be wasting time. I feel obsolete, like my days are gone. But every night I am bombarded by nightmares of men that are literally staking out my ministry, trying to be there for me as soon as I give up. They're prepared to wait however long it takes because I am still edible. This morning, when I was feeling all obsolete and basically sorry for myself, the Lord reminded me of a scene that I saw in a movie on Netflix called Mortal Engines. You can go check it out. It's not bad. It's not licentious. It also doesn't have sex. It doesn't have swearing. It's just one of those very rare to find things on YouTube. Then again, it's not from America. They're the ones that produce all this licentious content. Let's move on. Mortal Engines. It's basically this dystopian society well into the future, like as in the year 5000 or whatever, okay? And there is this like scene of this young girl that has been thrown out of an engine and she's living destitute, and out of this engine also fell out some young man that was used to living a life of comfort, but now he has been destituted from his own home by some event that happened on his own engine that got him betrayed. So now he's stuck in the wilderness, in this dry, patchy land with this girl that has learned how to survive a dry, patchy land, while this dude has been used to living in a place where I got water, I got bread, I got a bed. And now I'm like, where am I? Like, I'm in the wilderness. So basically this chick is out here taking, not so much taking care of this guy, but she feels stranded with him because, like, you're following me around, stop following me around, find your way around this, survive on your own. And this guy's like, no, I have to find my way back to London. I have to find myself back to the London engine. And this chick then, as this guy is just standing around looking just lost and bewildered by his stranded state, she gets down on some floor where there's like a puddle of muddy water. And this dude is like, oh my goodness, what are you doing touching that water? It's too muddy for you to clean your body with. And then she goes on and drinks it. And he's like, whoa, you're putting it in your mouth. You're not even trying to wash your body with it or your hands with it. And this chick is like, if you don't drink that water, you will die, or you're gonna have to drink your own urine. Figure out what you're gonna do. And then this dude just shuts up. And then she pulls out what would be the tantamount of a tinky or a Twinkie. So, tinky, see, if you're from South Africa, you will know what that is. I don't know if they sell tinkies in America. But it's a Twinkie. I bet, yeah, I think it's actually American. So maybe we are the ones that took the concept or the idea of that little bread with a chocolate center from America. Yeah, we probably inherited it from them because I think they call it a Twinkie. We call it a Tinky. Yeah, Tinkies. Yeah, this chick pulls out a Tinky. On her Tinkies, right? And it's like in still the packaging. And she starts to open this Tinky of hers and eats it, right? And then this dude is staring at her like, you know, like it's just sono kayena type thing. And then this chick looks at him, realizes that, oh, he's hinting at me that he's hungry too, right? As this dude is staring. And then she's like, oh, yeah. And then she gives him the Tinky, the Twinkie, right? To eat, basically. And this dude takes it from her. And then he reads the label and he's like, whoa, this thing expired in 2118. It expired in 2118. Okay, so we are in 2023, so that, like I told you, it's like in the far future, that show. So they basically, the whole storyline is along the lines of the fact that the Earth destroyed itself somewhere along the way in the 2000s, like in year 2200, the Earth was completely destroyed by the Earth's citizens. And this dude is like, this Twinkie has been expired since 2118. And this chick, as she's standing there, is like, just eat the food of the ancients. She calls them ancients. She calls us ancients. She's like, the food of the ancients is practically indestructible. It does not go off. She's like, the food of the ancients is practically indestructible. It doesn't go off. And then this guy looks like this Tinky, and he's like, and then he eats it. You know, he's like, and then he eats it, and he's like, it's actually quite good. I remember laughing when she said that, because indeed, the food of the ancients, our food, the food of us people today, is practically indestructible. If at all it has been preserved in a particular way. There is this video that was done by this one guy on YouTube trying to show us like what in the show. Basically, the title of the video on YouTube is "What's in McDonald's Food." What in the world is in McDonald's food? And he grabs all different kinds of burgers from all different kinds, like his own homemade burger, and then McDonald's, and then some other brand, fast food restaurants brand of food, and he puts them next to each other and leaves them there for like with a time-lapse camera recording this burger, these fries, like McDonald's fries, McDonald's Coca-Cola inside the cup and the container, McDonald's burger, and also, like I said, his own homemade version, blah blah blah, etc. Right? And he puts them there next to each other. And as a time lapse is progressing over something like a year. Like, yeah, it's a time lapse that he does over a year, like 365 days. Okay, that he is recording this thing, experimenting. The first thing to go is the cups, the McDonald's, the plastic ones, because of the fact that they are, first of all, you see the mold growing on the surface of the Coke, right? And the cup in and of itself dies. The cup in and of itself caves in because it's made of like cardboard plastic. It's not supposed to hold liquids for an indefinite amount of time. So he eventually takes these cups and throws them away. So all that's left are the burgers. And the one that he made at home, it dies quickly. Like the mold is all up in there. After a year, it's nasty, it's terrible, it's rotten. Do you understand? And it's like, yeah, he chills them there. There are no maggots or whatever that grow on it because he concealed them in some kind of an airtight container, making sure that no insects can come in there and hatch some eggs and whatnot. So it did not get consumed by insects, but it certainly did have mold and all different kinds of stuff on it. All right, the one that he made at home, yeah, got molded. And then there was the McDonald's, and then another burger chain on the side. Yeah, the first, like the McDonald's, I'm not kidding you, the McDonald's fries and burger stayed in one bunch. The only thing that rot in there was the tomato and the lettuce. But like the patty and the, what is this, even, no, what, the lettuce, the tomato and the buns, the McDonald's went off. But the burger inside was in one literally neat bunch, guys, after 365 days. And the most surprising thing to make an observation of were the fries, the slap chips. They did not change at all. Not even a single ounce of mold on there. Nothing. They just stayed. Guys, what in the world? The McDonald's fries after 365 days looked exactly the same as day one. Only difference is that they were all dried up, but they looked the same. What's in those fries? Type of stuff that'll make you feel like I'm never eating McDonald's again. What are they putting in us? All of these preservatives in our food. They say that you must sell by this particular date, eat by this particular date, consume by, use by this particular date. But bottom line is, even when you excel that date, when you exceed that date, it'll still be perfectly good. I don't know what they put, what kinds of preservatives, parabens, angazi, what they put in there. But like, it makes sure that stuff does not go off. So that chick in Mortal Engines was not wrong, that the food of the ancients is practically indestructible. It does not go off. That she was able to eat a Twinkie in the year 5000 that was expired in the year 2118. 3,000 years later, she was out here able to eat a Twinkie from the ancients, because the food of the ancients is practically indestructible. The burger on the other side, the one that was not from McDonald's, also rot, but it took longer than the sell by date, longer than the use by date. I think after 2 months, that's when it started to look kind of shoddy. But the McDonald's basically was indestructible. It was indestructible. And that's not something we should be proud of, but it's an analogy that I'm out here making. Another thing that I've also made an observation of, I love hair. Y'all know that. I keep saying it over and over again, okay? So I watch a lot of hair content and I'm trying to grow my own hair. So I developed an interest in creating hair products, right? But I don't have money to buy preservatives. I don't have money to buy like parabens. I don't have money to buy whatever it is that you need in order to preserve a product so that it can last forever. But I like to do DIY things. However, I also don't have time to keep on making a new DIY every second week. I started out putting my stuff in the deep freezer, and it worked because it preserved the stuff for a while. And then when I needed it, I would take it out forward, take a piece of it, and then put it back in the deep freezer. It did work, but it's laborious, and I wanted a product that was just going to sit on the shelf and not go off. So I started to experiment some months ago with seeing if I can't use the preservatives in already preserved products to preserve my ingredients. And recently I experimented, guys, and yazini, I don't know what they put in these things, y'all. I don't know, but I grabbed some hair product that it's like a hair product brand that I trust and use. I took these products and I made my own hair DIY butter without any preservatives other than the ones that were in these products. And it's a good 2 weeks later, and that product is not going off, and it's been chilling in the bathroom. This room is very hot. It's humid, and this is the kind of perfect environment for fungi, for mold, for bacteria to grow. So if at all a product is in here, more so should it go off really quickly. And even my cream that I bank in this shack of mine is still intact because I mixed it with some other product that already had these preservatives in it. And these preservatives were so high in concentration that even when I watered them down with adding my own products and some water in them, they still stayed whole. I added egg, guys, to one of my hair butters. I added avocado and banana to one of my hair products. I added linseed that has been dunked in water and fenugreek into this product. I basically made a little concoction where I mixed these ingredients together. Carrot, mango, the mango of which was in its last days, chilling in the refrigerator, waiting to be eaten real fast or else. Yeah, I added mango. I added all of these products that really within 2 days, you're done for. If you're going to be banking it on a kitchen counter, worse off in a hot, humid room like the one that I'm living in right now. I added all of these ingredients, trying to make my own home DIY. I've been frustrated for months wanting to make something that I don't have to keep on remaking every 2 weeks, every week, every day. I wanted to just make it because I'm a lazy natural and I've got such a hard life. I cannot under heaven be going back to the drawing board every 2 weeks. I need to be able to chill and relax while my hair grows with good product in it, etc. that I make myself, because I feel as if my own products work better than the ones that are store-bought. Okay. Very well. Cool. I did that, right, guys? And like I said, it's 2 weeks later, and my product that has got egg in it, it has got banana, it has got avocado, it's got carrots and mango in it. It has also got a whole bunch of water linseed. It's got fenugreek, like basically that stuff that you put in water and you dunk it in there for a good 24 hours that it might like steep, so that it might steep and all the goodness come out of it. Yeah, like cloves and whatnot, star anise. Yeah, I did that whole concoction, mixed it up, strained it through a sock, put it in a jar, and then took the ingredients therein and mixed it into a store-bought hair butter mixed it into a store-bought, used a store-bought hairspray, used a store-bought curling custard, and I mixed it with also store-bought aqueous cream. I mixed it with all of these things, and basically was just like, let's see what happens. Hopefully when I go back there after 2 weeks, it's not going to start. After a day, it's not going to start smelling funny. After 2-3 days, it will start smelling funny. After a week, after it's been 2 weeks so far, and my custards, my creams, my body lotions do not smell. They smell as fresh as the first day. One of them even smells like banana because I put banana in it. And you know the smell of banana is so delicious? Yeah, it still smells like banana. It's been preserved. The food of the ancients is practically indestructible. It does not rot. It's because the ancients, there's something they do that they put in their food. And as it can't be healthy. It doesn't make sense that McDonald's burgers don't rot after a year. It doesn't make sense that their fries don't go off after a year. It proper is not good to be putting stuff like that in your stomach. Is it even digesting, for crying out loud? Karabo, I can say but it doesn't go off. However, that same indestructibility of McDonald's burgers and that same indestructibility now of my hand product, of my hand cream, my body lotion, my hair butter and whatnot, made from products that are indestructible of the 21st century, is what it is that God keeps on using to describe me. It's what it is that he's using to describe the body of Christ. Another thing that I made a discovery of, so I buy a lot of stuff cheap, go Chinatown. Let's just do one last part, guys. Okay, I'm gonna get to a point.